A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus departed from there and came to his native place, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished. They said, "Where did this man get all of this? What kind of wisdom has been given to him? What mighty deeds are wrought by his hands? Is he not the carpenter's, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joseph and Judah and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. He said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house." So he was not able to perform any mighty deed there, apart from curing a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. Gospel of the Lord. I woke up in Soho doorway. A policeman knew my name. He said, "You go to sleep at home tonight if you can get up and walk away." I staggered back to the underground and the breeze blew back my hair. I remember throwing punches around and preaching from my chair. Well, those are lyrics from the British band The Who, the song, "Who Are You? Who? The song is not necessarily particularly focused on anything other than that sort of wandering around London and at a time when maybe you're not quite sure who you are or what you need to be about. And today's gospel, in some ways, Jesus may be forced to understand a little more about who he is and what he's about, because here he is among his own people, and they ask the question, "Who do you think you are, kid? We know you. You're the carpenter. We know your family. We know where you come from. We're not that impressed with you." And they were, in fact, offended by his sense of, power and wisdom. Although they note that he has some, it does remind me that often enough for ourselves, it's those who we know the best for whom we aren't going to necessarily be taken so seriously, right? Familiarity sometimes can breed contempt. Hopefully that's not the case in our families or among our friend groups. But certainly we do know how to put each other in place by saying, we're not that impressed with you, because we know both your strengths and your limitations. We know your weaknesses. We know your faults. It's not a bad thing to have those in our lives who can, in fact, kind of give us a sober review of ourselves and, in fact, kind of not put us in our place, because I don't think we all belong in a place, because I think we need to give each other space so that we can understand more clearly how to let each other grow and to encourage the goodness in each other, right? But I think today's gospel does allow us to say that this Jesus, even he, in his own human journey, Jesus of Nazareth, is able to say, I'm not necessarily going to be helpful to everybody, and maybe even most especially those in my own intimate circles, those who've known me for a long time. We can and need to be helpful to each other, don't get me wrong, but there are things that we can't necessarily do for those we are so close to. It's the reason why in some professional codes they don't suggest you do therapy with your own family members or practice medicine sometimes in certain ways with your own family members. You're too enmeshed and emotionally caught up in their lives to be able to be that practitioner who can be of the best service. There's a level of distance and maybe even to some extent a kind of limited objectivity that someone who's a professional can work with us, whereas someone who's more personally connected would have a hard time. They can't separate out what the real need is when they are tied up in all of our needs and have a greater stake in us one way or another. So I do think today's gospel this week, as we journey through ordinary time, we can look at our ordinary lives and know that we need to be for someone and those we love very present, and very encouraging and loving in all of the ways we can. But to know that that's not going to enable us necessarily to sometimes do for one another what we really do need. And therefore, the greatest and loving thing may be for us to sometimes back away with a little bit of distance and refer others who can be more helpful to our family members, to be able to widen that space of care so that we encourage our loved ones to reach out to those who can be more helpful than we can to them. And maybe even at times to back away even further, because there's times in which we may really struggle given who we are and who our loved one is. That's certainly true in certain ways in journeys of recovery. Sometimes we can't be what we would like to be for our loved one who's on a journey in recovery, and vice versa. So I think today Jesus gives us that example that at times in our own circles of kinship, and we might not be able to do what we would like to do. We would not like maybe be who we would like to be. But as that old rock song from the British band The Who says, "Who are you?" and keeps repeating, who, by God's grace, can we be for one another? Let us answer that question in sober and clear ways so that we can be present to each other. But who we are for one another may mean we become that person who in fact lets others in or encourages others to be in other relationships that can even be more helpful in a given circumstance, so that we can be who we need to be by way of loving our loved ones. Who are you? Who can I be for you now? I can always be that person that loves you, and vice versa. But at times, we may need to know that we can work mightier deeds with one another in a web or a community of care that allows others to do and be what they can be. Amen.